What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this special live stream interview here on Ocasio-Cortez. And of course, as always, I am your humble host, Niko House. Today I have a very special guest, Nabilah. Don't call her the next AOC Islam. No, I'm just kidding. What's going on, Nabilah? For those of you who do not know, Nabilah is running in Georgia's 7th district. And it's looking like she actually has a good chance to win. Welcome to the show, Nabilah. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, no problem at all. And for those of you who don't know, one of the people on her campaign actually found me at a protest in Iran for against the Iran conflict, and was like, "Yo, you gotta interview her. She's amazing." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, when somebody from your campaign is at a protest and they approach me, it's pretty good credibility you're building right there already out the gate. So that's good stuff." So Nabilah, first things first. Are you a Russian asset? Because the world needs to know this before we continue this conversation.
No, not that I know of. No.
All right, Hillary, you heard that? She's not a Russian asset. So there we go. We got that out the way. Secondly, what would you consider are the main policies that your campaign is concerned with in your 2020 Democratic primary race?
I would say healthcare for sure. There's 135,000 people in my district, 25% of people in my district that don't have access to healthcare because they can't afford it. I would say economic justice. This is a working class district. The median income is about $72,000. And it's a district that hasn't seen their way up even though it's gone up. I would say immigration reform. My district is one of the most diverse districts in America, and it's comprised of two counties. It's Southeast Forsyth and Gwinnett County. And Gwinnett County is the majority of the district, it's about 85%. And it's the most diverse county in the Southeast and the fourth most diverse county in America. And with that being said, we employ an archaic immigration law called 287G, which deputizes local law enforcement to do ICE's bidding.
Oh, yeah.
And detain people and deport them. And so we have the highest deportation rate in the entire country.
We also personally.
Yes.
I've been actually personally arrested in one of the areas in Georgia. Oh my goodness, what is it called? Starts with a V. Valdosta. Woo! That was a wild experience, and I come to find out that they're under federal investigation for racial profiling and all kinds of crazy stuff. In that area is like 85 or 86% white, but then you go in a courthouse, they read off a list of names. First of all, the courthouse was full, too full for all the names they listed off, and they were either black or Hispanic.
Wow.
So yeah, I understand. That's a crazy area.
Definitely. We also have the largest pretrial detention center in the country in my district. So it's very unfortunate. So criminal justice reform, most definitely. And then climate. I'm advocating for a Green New Deal. We don't have a lot of time before we can reverse some of the damages that we've seen in the world. And so we have to advocate for bold, aggressive policies.
Well, I agree with 100% of all of those things, which, you're progressive. I've been keeping up with you, and you seem to be pretty on the money when it comes to all the policies. But I got a question for you, Nabilah, because it's easy to talk nowadays. Everybody knows what we stand for. We got like slogans, Medicare for all, what's the word? What does Bernie always say? No middle ground. That's, no middle ground, and everybody knows how to talk the talk. But what's your philosophy? Like, where was that moment that you're like, I gotta throw my hat in the ring because I feel like I'm the only one in my district capable of bringing about the change that this country deserves?
For me, it was 2018. Watching the wave of diverse women running on progressive policies. We elected the two first Muslim candidates ever. For me, that was so inspiring because even though my personal politics have always been more progressive, it's just the candidates that we typically see in the South are,
They're black
more
or white usually.
They're pale. What I like to say, pale, stale, and male. and they're white, exactly, and they're more middle of the road. They pander to Republicans in order to win, and to me, it's especially in Georgia, that's been like the strategy for the past 20 years, and we keep losing here because we're not inspiring anyone to come out and vote. We're not talking about the policies that are actually going to effectuate real change in our communities. We're not trying to even energize our base. For me, it was, look, this is the district that I grew up in. I'm the only candidate that actually grew up in this community. And I think it's so important that if you're going to represent a community, that you understand their shared lived experiences, so that you have that firsthand knowledge, that you have that empathy, that you're going to go the extra mile and advocate for something, even though, you know, some people might hit you for not being, not having electable policies, is what people like to say sometimes.
Yeah, based off of no statistics whatsoever, but yeah.
Right. So I would say I was very inspired by the bold women who stepped up and put themselves forth and, you know, spoke truth to power, and they expanded the electorate and their community came out for them.
Well, that's amazing, and that's a good caveat into my next question. Now, I've seen some of the news headlines, and I've seen some of I've even seen some progressive advocacy groups pushing for you. And usually what I always see is that you are the next AOC. And I saw your tweet now. You took a little issue with that. Not in a bad way, not in an offensive way, but you did take a little issue with being called the next someone else. Can you explain to the people why you took a little bit of an issue with that?
I would say, look, I'm very honored that people have compared me to Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. She's a transformational leader, and we've already seen how much she's been able to push the needle on the policies, the progressive policies that we're all advocating for. With that being said, I am my own person. You know, I'm running to be the first Nabilah Islam of my community, and I'm sure when she was running for office, she wasn't running to be anyone else. She was running to be the person that her community needed. And I think it's important to let people be who they are, and that's what I'm doing. So,
and you know what? It's also important to not put people in a box, I think, because sometimes I think if we get too wrapped up in the personality over the politics, and that's essentially what they were trying to do. And even though it was absolutely a compliment, when she makes a decision, people would assume that you're going to make the exact same decision for the exact same reasons. And when you don't, it can become, for no reason at all, controversial when there's not really a controversy there. So I also think that's also an important part of making sure that people know that you are who you are and AOC is who she is. Now, because we're keeping on the subject of philosophy, I don't always agree with AOC. I support most of the things that she pushes for. But there are situations in the progressive movement where basically it's a choice of playing politics or maintaining your progressive mandate. I want to give a brief example. We're obviously in the middle of a presidential election as well. I know your election, when you're involved in the congressional election, that's literally all you're paying attention to. But so you have time to pay attention to. But we have situations where there are candidates or Congress people and senators who will acknowledge some progressives and their policies or their anti-war work. For example, Tulsi Gabbard introduced a bill to end the war in Syria in 2019. However, it got no traction whatsoever because I want to say it was only Ilhan Omar who had co-signed it. Conversely, Ilhan Omar had introduced something, I can't remember what it was about. I think it was regarding Israel and Palestine. And then the rest of the progressives, even though they voted against some resolution, they didn't push that as hard as they should have, making sure that free speech was maintained. And because it didn't have one of those sexy names and it wasn't sexy legislation and didn't catch headlines, we might have missed an opportunity to pass that legislation. So when you get in those situations, what is going to be your inclination? Is it going to be to play politics, or, hey, I got to do what's right, even if I could take a hit to my, in the PR department from the establishment media?
I think it's very important to have conviction, and I would do what's right, even if I do take a hit. I think I am running on a progressive platform, and doing that here in Georgia, it's harder to run as a progressive. But I'm doing it because I truly believe that the policies that I'm advocating for are the ones that my community desperately needs. And so, I'm going to keep fighting for what I believe in and what my community, like I'm fighting with my community for these policies, and I'm not going to let them down.
You say, I know it's that's living in the South 101. I'm trying to tell you all what you need so you can live a happy life. I want you to just accept it. I know, I get it. I was in North Carolina campaigning for Bernie in 2016. Trust me, if anybody gets it, I get it. That brings me to my next question. Now, you just said yourself, you have to kind of fight with your community for what's to give them and help them accept what's best for your community. That does bring into question an electability issue. Do you believe that you are electable in a district that you admittedly say may not quite be ready for progressive policies?
So when I say it's harder, I'm saying it's harder because it's typically hasn't been done before. And wasn't in this race, there would be no one advocating for Medicare for all or a Green New Deal or $15 living wage or canceling 287G at the federal level. Like, I sometimes think about how we wouldn't have someone advocating for these policies, and it honestly breaks my heart that I would have hoped at least some of these candidates would have picked up the mantle and fought for some of these policies, but they're not. With that being said, I think that this community is ready. They just haven't had someone that said, screw it, I'm going to take the hit from the establishment. They're not going to come in for me, but this is what I believe in, and I feel like these are the policies that are going to really help us. And people have it. Our message has been resonating. It's been actually pretty amazing to watch people become so enthusiastic about this campaign. They've been like, I've been waiting for a candidate like you. And they're excited. And so I really believe that what we're doing is usually these centrist candidates that run in Georgia, they, like I said, they pander to Republicans. They're afraid to have conviction. They won't fully state out their policies. I'm the only candidate that has policies on their website, which is absurd. And, we're here to energize the base and expand the electorate. And not, my winning strategy isn't, let me peel off some Republicans. Because, you're losing if you're already doing that, because that means you've had to water yourself down, and I'm not going to do that.
100%. Who's the Democrat you're running against?
Oh, there's several.
There's several.
So,
okay.
Yes. So I am I'm in a 6-way primary. And in Georgia, in order to become the nominee, you have to get 50%. And
they do runoff?
Because it's a 6-way primary, there's going to be a runoff. So because there's so many candidates, it's going to trigger a runoff. And so the runoff will be, my primary is May 19th and the runoff is July 19th.
Okay.
And I think I know I'll be able to make that runoff, and it'll be another candidate as well.
That's good stuff. I'm glad you're so confident. Because we need some of that. We need more progressives, and if I do say so myself, I really truly believe we need more women of color in that unique perspective going forward, because it does help shape a lot. It helps people kind of understand and that gain that trust factor, because you can talk about your personal experiences one way or another, perhaps dealing with immigration, perhaps dealing with healthcare or lack thereof, being a woman in politics, being a woman before politics. How you notice some of the consistencies and similarities. Now, I do want to ask, because one thing I've noticed while observing your campaign so far is, I know you're Muslim, because you haven't been shy about mentioning it. However, you've kind of strayed away, which is, I actually appreciate, from vote for me because I'm Muslim, vote for me because I'm a woman. This is, these should be two of the reasons you should absolutely support me. Instead, you've been very, very much so policy driven. But I do want to delve a little bit deeper into your background to help people get a better understanding of how you kind of came to be the person that you are. So if you don't mind, could you let people know like your ethnic background,
Sure.
Things like that?
So I'm the daughter of working class immigrants from Bangladesh. My parents moved to this country about 40 years ago. They're both survivors of a political genocide. And I myself am one generation removed from growing up in a tin hut mud floor home like my own mother did in her village. And when they first came to this country, they had nothing. And they came here to pursue better economic opportunities. My parents lived in Section 8 housing when they got here. And they saved up money to afford an apartment, and that's when they had me. We moved into the district right before I turned 1. And my dad was a file clerk at the IRS, and my mom flipped burgers at Hardee's. And they worked really, really hard. I remember my mom got a job at a warehouse, and she worked there for 14 years. And because her wages were so low, she worked longer hours. And what ended up happening to her is that she herniated 2 discs, and which cost her job. And when she was trying to get her surgeries paid for by the insurance company, they denied her the rights, the benefits that she had a right to. This is a woman who's been working hard labor for 14 years, and this is how they treat her. And so when I was in high school, I'm the firstborn in my family. I understand English a lot better than my parents do. And so, I took it upon
myself. Right? You gotta live your life and help them with theirs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I just remember being like, well, this is, messed up. And I found a lawyer. And then I was on every call. I went to every meeting with my mom. My mother sued them, and she won. And as an adult now, I understand that if we had not won, we very well could have been part of the 2/3 of families that go bankrupt because of medical bills in this country. And then from there,
you stopped that. It seemed like you're already fit for the job.
And well, it's just, we got a broken system, and it tries to take advantage of people like my mother, and that just fires me up. How dare they? And then from there, I went to college. I became the first college graduate in my family. I went to Georgia State University in downtown Atlanta. And
I know I seen you at one of them parties. I knew it. Mm-hmm. I'm why I see you down there. Okay. I thought I recognized you. Okay, go ahead.
And so then, after college, while I was in college, actually, I was a political science major. And I had an assignment to interview a professor about what I wanted to do with my life. And I always knew I wanted to be a public servant, whether if that was working on campaigns, running for office for myself. And I went to go interview my government professor. He's a white man. And he told me, Nabilah, it's going to be a lot harder for you because typically people who do well in this space are the children of wealthy people because they have those connections, and it's harder for women to flourish in this field because there's a glass ceiling. I remember being 18 years old, feeling so dejected, and then I changed my major that week to business. And I was like, okay, well, who am I to break this glass ceiling? I'm just, this Bengali woman, and I don't. This is too big of a problem, apparently. And it's so sad because looking back, if my teacher had been a woman of color, she would have told me the exact opposite. Go for it, Nabilah.
So instead of just stopping at it's really hard.
Yeah. Well, you I've heard, I think it was AOC that said this, or someone else that said, you can't be what you can't see. And for him in his lifetime, I don't think he ever ran into people that looked like me that was successful in that field. And so, but I was always very committed to being involved in my community. even throughout college. And then after college, I founded the Gwinnett County Young Democrats, which served as a pipeline for talent in the county that I live in. And since then, we've been able to. My vice president became the first Black city councilman for the city of Duluth. Now he's running to be my county commissioner. The current president today he managed a race and managed to elect the first minority to our county commission. So cultivating the people on the ground has been very important to me. And I've worked on various number of races, from city council to presidential, to working for democratic institutions, and trying to get our communities noticed. And so now I'm here now running for office because I want to give my community a voice.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because a member of your campaign did tell me that, like, you had actually been in what the establishment is like, how they operate, how they think, because at one point you were working within, because basically there was no other option. It was basically no other option if you wanted to work in politics. Everything was establishment. And then you've begun to take that knowledge and apply it and use it against them. Is that about right?
So my most recent job was working for the DNC, and I was their Southern Regional Director. And I had been given an opportunity to go work there, and I thought to myself, like, they had actually issued out an MOU. They're like, we're trying to hire, increase our diversity. And I was like, oh, this is great. I can go to the top and see how I can, like, influence. And
so that part
while I was
up a little bit.
So I thought it was a great opportunity to go work for the highest institution and see how I could help influence the national party. Because, I mean, this might get into the weeds, but behind the scenes, there aren't a lot of diverse staff at the senior levels.
Oh, I know.
And so
it's like
it's
the one
usually
person they take a picture of for their little, cameos or for their PR. That's like the one Black or brown person they have usually. Yeah, I know.
Right. So I've always been that unicorn, and I was just like, okay, well, this is great. I'll be able to inject my voice into the conversation. And when I was there, I was just really disappointed. I went there to help rebuild the party after we lost to Donald Trump, and the overall strategy of the party did not seem as if they were focused on expanding the electorate and giving minorities a real voice at the table. I felt like we were just like a second thought, right?
Yeah, we were tokens for the Democrats, absolutely.
Right, and I didn't like that, so I was there for almost like a year, and then I quit. But I've learned a lot from these experiences. I'll tell you what, the establishment is not helping me on this campaign. I'm not their cup of tea. And they often go. They're comfortable with centrist candidates because they don't challenge the status quo. They don't challenge power, right?
Which means they're not challenging the pocketbook. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm running a campaign that is, speaking truth to power, and that's something that they don't think is winnable in the South. I've heard through the grapevine, they're worried that a candidate like me might not be able to win white votes. And I think that when they say that, they think Republicans. But I mean, yeah. So I've been able to learn a lot, and I've been able to. I
think Georgians aren't a monolith either, though. I think that oftentimes gets lost. You meet a lot of Georgians who may identify as Republican just because historically their families have. But
sure.
Then if you ask them what's important, like, oh, do you want healthcare or single payer healthcare? They're like, yeah, I like healthcare. Why wouldn't I like healthcare? They're like, okay, so what's the problem? Oh, nothing. You're just not Republican. So I feel like if you could pitch the way you've pitched here today, then you have absolutely no problem winning over whoever you'd like to. Especially in what I believe will be a pivotal year where Georgia won't necessarily go blue in the general, but it will for you in your primary when you have two famous progressives, two progressives who actually they sit very well with conservatives and independent leading, right leaning independents. Their messages resonate because of some of the things that you talked about here. And for you in your primary, basically you get two candidates where almost every vote you can count from them, you can count for yourself. If you keep at the pace you're keeping at now, which is pretty awesome and this is a great time for you to run. And I have to say also, it does say a lot about you as a progressive and as about your convictions when you worked for the DNC. We're so disgusted with what you saw, and we're like, no, I'm just gonna run for office because y'all getting this all wrong. I gotta do this the right way.
No, but literally though.
Trust me, I know. I was in the African American caucus in North Carolina, and I was like, y'all have really got a lot of this wrong. I remember one time somebody asked me to run for office. They're like, "You're really well spoken." I'm like, "Oh, I appreciate it. You're well kempt. You're well spoken. You're charismatic." I was like, "Hold on, you don't even know what policies like advocate for." But yeah, but you're well spoken. You're charismatic. You're very friendly. You're very likable. Like, I don't think that y'all know what the hell y'all doing anymore. Y'all, they're playing by the rules of the 90s, and clearly you're here playing by contemporary rules. And I think that's what's going to help you win. So let's tell people where they can donate to you and follow your campaign.
They can go to NabilahForCongress.com. That's spelled N-A, B like boy, ILAHFOR, Congress.com. And they can make a donation on there as well. We've been able to raise over $400,000, and a majority of that.
Let me just hold $1. I'll give it back tomorrow. I promise.
has been from low dollar contributions. So I really count on the $5, $10, $15, $20 contributions. And they can find me. You can find me on Twitter at Nabilah FORGA07. We don't hold back from saying what we feel. So feel free to follow. I'm sure you'll enjoy what we're saying. And you can find me on Instagram at the same handle as well.
I can co-sign that statement. They keep it real on there. I love everything y'all talked about during the conflict with Iran as it was escalating. I'm interested to see some, not necessarily the drama kind. Like I said, I understand as a congressperson or a person aspiring to be a congressperson, you're trying to focus on your district's needs, but the policy discussions that are happening, I definitely look forward to seeing as that unfold, or your comments on those as they unfold. So Nabilah for Congress, NABILAHFOR Congress.com. And then on Twitter, you can follow her at Nabilah for GA07. And of course, if you are from Georgia and you do have an extra few hours on your hand, I'm sure that Nabilah wouldn't mind it if you come and did some canvassing for her.
That'd be great.
Right, I don't know. Do you
Yes.
get high dollar staffers? Do you get volunteers? I don't know. You got a lot of money now, so.
We'll take everyone.
Good stuff. All right, good stuff. So if you're in Georgia, you're around Gwinnett County, make sure you go find Nabilah's campaign office and you go canvass and knock on some doors and help us get another progressive in Congress. We sorely need it. We have a very unique opportunity this election to just really clean house. If we do it the right way, if we stay unified, and most of all, if we get on the ground, get off our asses and start putting the work in. And that is what Nabilah has decided to do. So thank you so much. Do you have any last words for the audience before we go?
I would say, any last words? Have integrity and speak with conviction and never back down.
Hot damn, but look at her. She dropping knowledge on y'all. She didn't even say nothing about herself. She said, nah, you go have some integrity with your non-integrity having ass. All right, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream interview of Mikasa Sukasa. Go donate to Nabilah right now, but always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.